Yo, 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 it is about that time. Chugga, chugga, chugga. That was my DJ scratching sound because we're hip hop like that. Chugga, 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 ooh. What's up, guys? This is Jacques Slade, and you are listening to the Outside the Box podcast. That's the echo because we can't afford sound effects quite yet. Just want to welcome you guys back to the show. As always, we appreciate you guys listening. The show would not be what it is without you, and to be honest, this show would probably be even better without me. That's why I bring along two of the most intelligent people that I know. They are sneaker aficionados, but they are also just really great people in general, and they really help round this show out to help even keel my foolishness. I am talking about none other than Nick Engvall and Tiffany Beers. Nick, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Nick Engvall. I've been working in the sneaker business for about 10 years or so, and have a site called Sneaker History. But basically, I just kind of enjoy learning from Tiffany and Jacques here, and I guess that's why I'm here. Tiffany, let them know who you are, how they can connect with you.
Hi, I'm Tiffany Beers. I've been in the sneaker industry for over a decade now, and I worked at Nike. I did some innovation, I did product development, all kinds of fun stuff. You can find me at Tiffany Beers on YouTube and on Instagram and Twitter.
And that's Rumble Beers on YouTube, you guys. Because
my dog's name.
Rumble, young Tiff Rumble. I get it. So we're starting the show on a sneaker note today because we have there's a new shoe coming out. I don't know if it's officially released yet, but it should be coming out pretty soon. It's the Nike React Element 55. Now, people, I'll say people because I don't want to name names here. They've been looking at this shoe and they feel like it is the second coming of the Roshe run. Now, I have some thoughts about that, and I'm gonna spiel my thoughts real quick. So, I feel like the Roshe run, or the Roshe run. Actually, Tiffany, can you help us clarify what is it Roshe run? Is it Roshe run? Is it Roshe? Is it Rashi? I've heard a lot of different names for it.
It's Roshe, I believe, but I could be wrong.
So it is Roshe.
Yeah.
All right. See, I was like the Roshe Ruan. The Roshe run, I feel like it kind of came out of nowhere. It was kind of like a sleeper sneaker that I think people just really embraced. But I don't feel like that's going to be the same thing with the React Element 55. And, you know, if you guys feel free to jump in here to correct me. But we have the React Element 87, which is kind of like the hype version of the shoe. But then we have the React Element 55, which is almost like the takedown. So when I say takedown, for those that aren't familiar with that verbiage, when like a signature athlete does a shoe, so like maybe like the LeBron or the Kobe or the Kyrie, they usually do like a takedown version of the shoe, which is almost, I would say, like a budget version of that shoe. It may not have necessarily all the technology that the signature shoe has, but it still kind of incorporates the feel or the presence of the athlete, and that's what I'm assuming is happening with the React Element 55. It's kind of the takedown version of the React Element 87, which is getting all the hype and people seem to really like. So, Nick, I'm going to throw this to you. Do you see the React Element 55 as being the next Roshe, or is that just kind of like people just trying to connect two dots because the shoes are really basic versions of shoes?
I mean, I think you could look at it that way. I think that, you know, the one thing that was really unique about the Roshe was when it came out in maybe like 2012, late 2011, early 2012, something like that. You know, the shoe was like $70, so it was so much lower priced than everything on the market that it was like, and you know, aside from like comfort and wearability and all those things, it was just so low priced that, you know, it was kind of surprising that it even caught on. I think like the general, like, you know, shoes that were popular at that time were $100, $120. So the React Element 55 is you know, I think 110 or 120, which it's definitely a lower price point than a lot of the the shoes, the cool shoes on the market. I don't know that it's going to fully take on what the Roshe became, just because it the popularity of the 87 is, it mimics kind of like, I see where like people are connecting. You have like kind of these super limited colorways that come out, and then you have like this massive market flooding of the 55 will be available at Finish Line and Foot Locker and Foot Action and East Bay and all of your local boutiques. Like it'll just be everywhere more than likely. And I think that's kind of the connection. But it's still like, even with inflation, like 5-6 years later, that's still a pretty high price point for people. Like, I think general consumers have this like triple digit price point limit where once you go over $100, like that's expensive for a mom and dad to buy a kid a pair of shoes. And that was the one thing that the Roshe had the advantage of, where everything else was in the 150 range, and Roshe just came in at such a low point, and it caught on. That to me was like an extreme. It was so extreme that I don't know how you could connect the 55 or any of the React Element stuff in that sense, just because the price points are so different. But I don't know. I mean, Tiffany, do you think the Roshe was it expected? It didn't seem like it was expected to do as well as it ended up doing. But was there buzz around that shoe at that time at Nike, or?
I don't even remember it, and I was not an early adopter of the Roshe. I did not care for what they looked like, but I ended up finding a pair of high top ones at the employee store one day, and I never saw them again. And to this day, are one of still my favorite shoes. I remember it doing really well. I don't know, though, anything about if they thought it was going to do well or anything like that. I mean, it was a super comfortable shoe, mostly because the upper wasn't, it was just very simple, but they had a great sock liner in the shoe, a very, very comfortable sock liner. So I think it's a very different beast than the Element. Now, that being said, React is such a comfortable foam that, I hope that more people get to experience React underfoot. And so for that reason, that's why the price point's higher on this shoe, right? React is an expensive cushioning. It's only been used in performance to date until the prequel came out. So I think it's going to be interesting. What I don't understand is how they think that clear translucent material was a higher price point. Like, sure, that material might cost more, but like, if you've worn the 87, it is not actually very foot friendly. That material in the uppers kind of stink, right? Like, they definitely cause a lot of irritation, and especially if you're trying to wear no-show socks. See if I can say that 3 times fast. They definitely are not that comfortable, so I'm actually hopeful that the 55 is more comfortable. I think they can play with it in a lot of fun colorways. So I think it could become a very big popular shoe, but I don't know if it will get as big as the Roshe. That price point at $85 was just too hard to turn down, right? That's the interesting thing about this. Like, because I agree with you that I do want people to experience React. I like it. As I said before, I'm sure I've said before on the show, like, I run in it when I do like my shorter runs. That's what I choose to run in. Like, I've never done more than like 10 miles in the React. But I think it's something that everyone should experience just on foot, period. I think it's just going to be a great shoe. But something I wonder is, because this is a lower price point, because the regular React is at, I believe, $150.
Yeah. So these are, what would you say, Nick? 120, 130?
I think it's 120. Yeah.
120. And 130. Tiffany, correct me here. 130. Does that mean they're doing a different variation of React? And I guess that's something I've always kind of been curious about. Like, when they do these shoes with the same technology at a lower price point, are they changing the formula of the foam so that it's a cheaper version of the foam, or are they just selling the hyped version with that foam?
I think it's more about the uppers, right? Because the Epic React is 150 and it has a Flyknit upper on it, and that Flyknit technology is not cheap. So if you compare the two uppers only, I'd be shocked actually, because foam performance is so particular. I'd be shocked if they changed the formula for a lower price point without changing the name or changing it and explaining as a different technology, right? Like, think of all the different foams throughout the years, and then they started calling one Lunar Lawn, and it effectively had a slightly different chemistry that offered better properties. So no, I don't think they're changing chemistry of foam to lower price point. I think it's more about how they construct the shoe and the other materials involved. Like, sock liner is a big deal, lace is a big deal. That translucent material is apparently a big deal.
Yeah, I mean that translucent material might be expensive, Tiffany.
Yeah,
we don't know. They might be paying $10 a foot for that, or whatever it is a foot.
Transparency is expensive, as we're learning.
Is it really?
Well, transparency is expensive.
That's a different conversation. That opens up a whole new can of worms. But I mean, I think it is exciting, and what I think I'm most excited about is seeing what they do with the materials on the upper. I think that's where I either like really fall in love or kind of disassociate myself with the shoe, is when they can really do like really great materials and really great colors on the upper that really help the silhouette stand out. It's amazing to me how much of a difference a colorway can make to a shoe, or how much of a difference just having certain materials on an upper can really change like your whole perception of a shoe that you may have thought of you didn't like, but then you see it in a certain color or with certain materials, you're like, oh man, that shoe looks good. That's just amazing to me.
Yep.
And since we're talking about Nike and different colors and different materials, and let's go with different athletes. And this time we're going to go with Kaepernick and Nike in their Just Do It campaign. Now, Nike just released this ad earlier this week talking about, it's talking about a bunch of different athletes. And Kaepernick happens to be the hot button focus of this just because of the protests that he was doing, but it brings about a bunch of different conversations about Nike and about Kaepernick and about what they're doing. So watching the ad, if you watch the ad, Nike really isn't selling anything. It's not like there's a shoe there that they're trying to sell you. There's not a shirt that they're trying to sell you. What they're selling you, in a sense, is you, basically. Like the greater. And I would even say like the greater you, the version of you that you want to be. They're selling you on becoming that person, which is a really interesting perspective and an interesting way for a company to market itself. And part of, I guess, the struggle that I have is I'm excited that they're supporting Kaepernick's efforts in a very I don't want to say not a direct way, but in a way that's a little, I'll say it's like a loose support for him, because they're not saying specifically Black Lives Matter or fight social injustice or fight against police brutality. Like, if you notice, that's not in the ad. What's in the ad is the moral. They seem to be focusing more on the moral standing of which Kaepernick is using, or the philosophy that he's using in order to fight those things. But I know that's a bit of a ramble, and feel free to jump in here. But I just feel like that is just an interesting sort of dichotomy, because Nike is a business and Nike needs to make money, and even though like they're loosely supporting Kaepernick and what he's done, at the end of the day, I feel like this is still marketing to the masses in their own sort of way.
I think if you look at the Nike's, corporate mission, though, it's to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world, right? And it's asterisks if you have a body or an athlete, right? This is bringing inspiration, right? Like, maybe the idea is not crazy enough, you know? Like, I love
Right.
what they're saying here. Some of, I think the fact that this is creating such a conversation for so many people is fantastic. Like, we need to have these conversations. We need more awareness. We need people to talk about this stuff. And I think it does align well with actually Nike's mission. Now, whether it's a little too political or not, I know that's been a massive discussion about it. But at the end of the day, they're inspiring people, right? Like, what was
Right.
your crazy idea? What idea did you have for yourself, Jacques, that once you saw that ad, you're like, oh man, maybe that's not crazy enough. Like, I thought that for sure. Like, maybe my idea isn't crazy
Right.
enough. Like, what is
Right.
the next level?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what. Go ahead, Nick.
I was just gonna say, and I think like it's politicized, through social media, and obviously what he stands for, in his beliefs is, can be a political thing. But with Nike, like this, like Tiffany said, this just follows they've been an inspirational, aspirational company, probably since the 80s, right? Since the, even since probably the Jordan 1 or at very latest, like the Air Max 1 and like the Revolution, Join the Revolution, like all of those things have political undertones. All of their marketing has always had political undertones if you want to take it that way. But it's really just about being a better you at the end of the day. And I think that's the thing that like a lot of, like you can see people get all up in arms about it, and I think, it's great that we are even having these conversations because there's serious issues in the world that we just blow over and we don't take the time to talk about. But, them getting all of their athletes involved, like you said, like if you have a body, you're an athlete, that approach and like all of the diversity and the adversity that some of the athletes that are in that commercial have had to go through, it just is like, I think the people that are like paying attention, that are open to seeing the message is like, just like get over your sorry, I don't know if we're allowed to cuss on here, but like get over yourself and, kind of move forward with that, and go after what it is that you want.
Yeah, I think if you compare this though, like the latest news on Nike prior to that is like the Me Too movement, right? Their corporate culture having a lot of issues. So I think this is a very interesting time that they come out with this campaign, and I hope that it is also translated into their corporate culture. And I hope that those two things start to come together and they can be a better example.
That would be dope. Because part of the, I guess, the blowback about this ad is that if you look at like Nike's executive lineup, there's not very much diversity there.
Yeah. And
there's like with this is like you guys are pushing this diversity and inclusion, yet the executives that make these decisions, there's not very much diversity there, and that's I think part of that is because of some people with bad behavior were removed from the executive line, and that I'm sure impacted how diverse that lineup is. But I get what people are trying to say, and I go back and forth with this. It's one of those things where I struggle with the profiting off of a political message, but at the end of the day, someone's going to, and someone's going to. So I guess it's like, is it okay? Who is it okay to profit off of something like this? I'm happy the message is out there. I'm happy that the message is getting a broader audience, and that people are hopefully seeing it for what it is and how they should be inclusive of it as opposed to exclusive, or I mean, instead of trying to remove themselves from it, because I think that it's an opportunity for people to look at each other and look within themselves and really just do better. I kind of feel like the ad speaks to, like, Just Do It was fantastic. It just represented a moment in time, and it was so aspirational, and it spoke to so many different situations. And with this new ad, it's almost like Just Do It 2.0, but there's it's just said in a bunch of different ways. It's almost like they couldn't, like, how do we follow up Just Do It? And then they have all of these other lines that could kind of follow up Just Do It. And I think that's part of the genius of Nike and the folks over at Weed and Kennedy. They've done a terrific job, and I'm not mad. I'm not mad at all. I know it may seem like I'm opposed to this, but I'm not. I just want to talk about both sides and, let people see both sides of the issue.
And I think that's
Absolutely.
But anyway,
I think that's the biggest point, right? Like, people need to recognize that there are tons of ways to go about, like, consuming this information and looking at it and, like, finding, like it's okay to disagree. Like, it's okay to not have the same exact everything as the people that you hang out with or whatever. Like, there's plenty of people that, I think of, like, like, you could look back at, like, Bill Bowerman and Phil Knight, and, like, they've been, like, huge supporters of the Republican Party for a very long time, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think that this is how our world is as the United States is supposed to work, where there's balance and there's conversation, and, like, we're just in a really weird spot where, like, everybody's kind of up in arms in a lot of ways. But, like, even with Kaepernick's kneeling, like, there's plenty, like, you could like, in the sneaker community, you could go look at, like, Daniel, One-Legged Lister on Instagram, and every time Kaepernick has come up, he's a veteran, lost his leg, all of these things, and he talks about how he supports this whole belief of being able to protest in a peaceful way, and you can go find people on all sides of that. And I think the important thing to take away from is, like, this is just, like, starting the conversation, I think, and I'm happy to see any brand, especially Nike, with such a powerful message, to, like, pushing forward that, like, we need to kind of deal with some of these things as a society, because we obviously are in a really, like, rough time for just plain conversational, growing and learning with each other as human beings, I think.
I just want to point this out. Like, I think it's finally awesome that in that ad, like, at first, when I found out they, attached Just Do It to an athlete, I was like, an NFL player? Like, hello, Serena Williams. I mean, if you're going to attach Just Do It, like, and finally they say in this ad, I can't remember what they call her, the greatest athlete in the world, right? Like, finally someone's coming out and saying it, right? And everyone's agreeing with it. Well, maybe not everyone, but I mean, she's such a phenomenal athlete. She's so incredible. I'm just really glad that they included that in there too. And even though it might get a little overshadowed, like, I'm all in for Serena.
Yeah, I'm all in for Serena as well. I think that was a terrific twist on that. How they pushed her as, like, oh, like, don't just be a tennis player from Compton, be the best athlete in the world, whatever it is. It's just a fantastic line, and it fits so well.
And
side note,
go ahead.
Just thinking about that commercial, I don't know if you guys noticed it, but for LeBron, they say they don't finish LeBron's line. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Interesting.
About basketball.
Oh yeah.
I know you it's inferred, but they don't actually finish the line, and I imagine that's because of Mike. But that's just me speculating here. That's total rumor. But I mean, they can't call LeBron the greatest athlete ever if Mike helped build that house. So
yeah, and that's what I thought too. I thought when they were saying that line, I'm thinking, what do you mean? What about Michael? Like, come on, man. He, like, wait a second. And I'm like, this is not what this is about.
Yeah. That's good. But going back to Serena and being the greatest athlete ever, there was some, there was some talk about her as well because of the outfit that Nike designed for her and it being banned from the French Open, and Nike had a great response, but I guess the bigger issue is bigger than Nike's response. Is there is still a, what do I call it, a movement or a part of society that feels like they can tell a woman what to wear or what she can and cannot wear. And I feel, guys, feel free to jump in and tell me if I'm wrong, but I kind of feel like that's what's happening here with the French Open, where she can't wear like the catsuit that Serena wears.
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily like a female thing, but it absolutely could be. I think that tennis in general, as much as I love watching tennis, it's such a, for lack of a better word, it's such a prude sport, and like all of, the sport is so like proper compared to every other sport, where I think like you've seen this before, where like back when I was a kid, it was Andre Agassi was wasn't allowed to wear certain colors at like he would wear like the the bright colors at the US Open, and then couldn't wear those same colors at Wimbledon or at the French, and I think like just in general the sport is very closed-minded when it comes to that stuff. And I think that it's just with Serena, like being, like you said, like the greatest athlete ever, like why are you still putting this, and she came out and said that she still respects the organization, and will still be at the French Open and all of that stuff. But I just think it's like, aren't we like a good 20-30 years past this kind of crap in sports? But
right.
I mean, there is something. Let me be super clear first. Like, body shaming for women, telling women what to wear, I do not agree with on any level. Like, that should be completely gone. But to the French Open side, like, there is tradition in sports, right? Like, some of the most enjoyable things about sports are traditions, and they look at the dress code as tradition, right? And so like that's where I think this starts to become a challenge. It's like, do away with that tradition, because no one cares anymore, and frankly you're going to update the sport to be cooler anyways, and probably sell more clothing, to be honest. So it just is like, okay, I respect traditions, totally down with that, that's fine, but right. At the same time, like, Serena should be able to wear whatever the heck she pleases when she wants. Again, we're talking about the greatest athlete in the world, and she's a mother, and she just had a baby, and she played tennis pregnant. Like, come on, people, this is unheard of.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I feel like you don't want to jump to that conclusion and be like, oh, they're trying to prevent her from wearing what she wants to wear. But you also want to balance that with tradition. Like, you get that you want to hold on to the tradition of the game, but like the game has been evolving all along. Like, other things of the game are changing, so why not outfits? Why, like, you're like the technology for the rackets is getting better. The materials that they're using for the rackets are getting better. We have a better understanding of how the body works, and so clothing and shoes are being designed to better fit the body, or to better work with the body, or to work better with the body's movement, and all of these things. So I think you have to advance the fashion as well. Like, if you just want women in skirts, like that rule has to change. Like, that's just not going to be acceptable anymore. Like, all women don't want to wear skirts, or whatever the rule is for the French Open. But I agree, and I think too, like, and it's important, I think, in that discussion to point out that it's not just about the technology that the athletes are using. It's actually like, like you have cameras that do what the line judges are, for decades, centuries, were supposed to do, now taking on that responsibility, right? Like, if there's a close call, they use technology to see if the call was right or wrong. So in a lot of ways, like, tradition is kind of like out the window in almost every aspect of the sport, but that one thing. Yeah, and I think the part that really got me is the way that they worded it. It was you have to respect the game and the place, as if Serena doesn't have respect for the game of tennis. Yeah, which is really where I think if they would have said it doesn't adhere to our clothing rules or something like that, I think I would have been a little more,
Totally.
I would have understood a little more.
Yep.
But to present it as if her wearing that disrespects the game of tennis and disrespects wherever the French Open, then I think that's when it crosses the line, and that's when it opens up for a different conversation. But maybe that's just me. I just found those words, and using the word respect as if she doesn't respect the game because she wore a catsuit literally for medical reasons, then that, I don't know, that just didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, it comes across really condescending.
Yeah, like, this is our game. You respect our game. We allow you to play our game, so respect it, which is very condescending and makes me angry. But
Yeah.
we won't get into that.
Don't forget about, like, just a week prior to this, or around the same time, there was a woman penalized because she had her shirt on backwards or inside out. I can't remember which it was. And she got penalized even though the guys could just completely take their shirts off there on the court.
Yeah.
And there was that whole discussion too. So, like, you have multiple points now where the tennis body, authoritative body, is running into challenges in kind of the same arena.
They've got to get it together. They've got to get it together. So, speaking of being angry and speaking of being mad, there's some people in the world. I don't want to say mad. I don't want to say I'm angry. I don't want to say I'm mad. Let's
Go
say
ahead. Tell them how you feel.
I'm bothered. No, not bothered. No, I don't want to say bothered. I'm what's the word that I'm looking for? I'm in a fit of rage. That's what it is. I'm in a fit of rage because there are a couple people I've seen on the internets, and they're trying to take my job. So there's this guy named LeBron James, who apparently feels like it's okay for him to do unboxings now on his Instagram story and reveal new shoes. And lo and behold, right on the heels of LeBron James, some unknown actor, probably has never worked a day in his life, named Will Smith, is doing something on his Instagram feed. I say all that kidding, but I kind of think that it's awesome that they're doing unboxings on their own. So both Will and LeBron did unboxing. LeBron unboxed the LeBron 16 HFR for Harlem Fashion Row, and Will did his Air Jordan 5, two versions of the Air Jordan 5, which he's doing for charity and kind of linked to his birthday and stuff like that. But it kind of brings on another conversation with, I think, what LeBron was trying to do with Uninterrupted, of these athletes and really these entertainers being able to bring their own messaging to the crowd or to the audience, which is an interesting sort of dynamic and almost like a change in the way that things are being done. I imagine this kind of throws a wrench a little bit in the way of the brands or the media players that always felt like they had the control. Now these athletes and entertainers are kind of taking control over their own destiny in the way that they talk about themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that this is the future of everything, right? Like, the athletes and entertainers that really, like, go out and create content on their own, like, really own what they're passionate about, own what they've built their brand around, and tell the stories on their own, are the future of, big media conglomerates even, right? Like, LeBron is like the kind of pinnacle athlete doing this right now, but he's so much more than an athlete, not to, jump on the hashtag bandwagon or whatever, but it's like he's doing so much outside of basketball to keep himself relevant and set himself up for life after basketball, life after playing in the NBA, I guess. That, like, to me, this is just like the people that get it, right? Like, you want to go out and create your own content. Like, all three of us create our own content in different ways, and that's the value that we bring to, like, people we work with. It's the value that we're able to, like, kind of do things that we're passionate about through telling those stories and, you know, kind of engaging with people. But I think that, like, Will Smith doing it is actually really, really awesome, just because, you know, I think, like, I don't know that he was necessarily, like, the guy that was, you know, he probably had, like, a stylist or somebody seeding him Jordans back in the day and just say, wear these, and it was cool because it was cool to wear Jordans. But
right,
since he got on Instagram, whatever that was, you know, 6 months ago or a year ago, like, he's created some of the best content in the world, period, because he's being really, really real about his growth, about his experiences, and about, like, just being inspirational and motivational and all of those things. And this is just another piece of that to me that just kind of brings him back to, like, the normal guy that you can kind of connect with and be like, yeah, like, he was just excited about those shoes. It's so cool to see him do it, you know? But I don't know, like, I really think that these kind of things are awesome. And I just want to point out, he did do it on YouTube, Jacques. So I don't know, you know, I don't want to put you back into that fit of rage, but
wait. Will Smith did it on YouTube? I thought it was just on Instagram.
No, there's a YouTube video too. Yeah.
Oh, there's a YouTube video as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. That's cool. I'm happy. I'm happy for him. That's awesome. That's awesome. Great job, Will. You've got my support, bro.
Nah, we should just put it out there now because he needs to do an unboxing video with you, right?
Right. Yeah. Will, William, Bill. Not sure which name you prefer. This is Jacques Slade, and I do unboxing videos on the internets, particularly YouTube. I don't know if you're aware of that or not. I know you posted an unboxing of your own on YouTube, but I do that as well. So if you want to, like, link up and collab, holler at me, bro. We can do this. I'm saying you don't see me acting in movies. But it's cool. It's cool, Will. Come on.
Maybe you should think about acting, Jacques. I mean,
yeah. Obviously now, people, coming to my job doing what I do. No, but seriously, Will, if you want to collaborate on unboxing, I'd love to do it. I think we could have a lot of fun and make this happen. But enough about me. Enough about Will. Let's talk about this podcast. So moving on to our next topic of discussion, we have video games. So I'm a big video game fan, and the video game that has dominated the world really for the last, I would say, 9 to 12 months is Fortnite. And it's just like an unexpected thing. It just grew huge, and it's based on a style of play called Battle Royale. Now, the bigger players weren't really paying as much attention to that at first, but now it seems like that's going to become a bigger part of some of these bigger, like, giant franchise sort of games. And the reason I say that is because Call of Duty announced a Battle Royale mode, which is basically the same thing that Fortnite is doing. And I mentioned this in the video game sense, but I think it speaks to a larger thing that happens in the sneaker industry, the video game industry, and the movie industry, just really everywhere, of like a small player doing something and it just explodes, and then you see other people, I guess in a sense, jump on the bandwagon and do something similar or the same thing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you're really into Fortnite, I kind of feel like this Battle Royale movement is kind of on the back end of it, if that makes any sense. Do you guys play video games at all? I'm talking about this.
No, I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not like a big gamer by any means, but I think, like, the interesting thing about it is, like, you know, this is like Call of Duty has such a massive following anyway, right? Like,
right.
Like that's the real interesting thing to me is, like, it's like, okay, cool, you completely just, you know, almost like reinvent the game by taking on this format that you already know is like massively popular through Fortnite. I think it's just exciting to see somebody be able to like kind of pivot into this new way, that might it's I think it's just going to create a lot of excitement for gamers, but also like I think this type of thing could potentially transition into a lot of different things. But Tiffany, you had some thoughts. Do you play Call of Duty or Fortnite?
Yes, I want to hear yes to this. I'm waiting for you to say yes.
I do play Fortnite. I have not played Call of Duty. I've definitely played games throughout my life. There was a few years there where I didn't play any video games, but last year I got totally pulled into Minecraft. Days on end. I'm not kidding you, days on end. So I think it's fascinating, like I love playing Fortnite, like especially when you get people that have headsets and things and they're talking, but like I don't have a headset hooked up and everything yet, and so they can't hear me, but I can hear them. It's just super fun, and of course there are a bunch of young kids on there too, and so the conversations they have are so funny, and it's so fun. I think of if we didn't have, back to your original question, Jacques, if we didn't have MySpace, who tried it out, you remember MySpace, and then Facebook, who virtually copied them but made it better. Unfortunately, MySpace is it gone? Or is it just very small now?
I mean, I think it's still
MySpace
there.
is still around. It is.
That's evolution, right? Like, that is how products in our entire society advances, right? Someone tries something, and then someone builds upon it and builds upon it and builds upon it. And unfortunately, it does suck for the little guys, but I think Fortnite has a pretty strong following. I mean, I think they'll be able to hold out. They keep doing really cool stuff. They keep adding interesting things. You play a little bit, Jacques?
I do not play as much as I would like. I've played a couple of times, but I sucked so bad that I just kind of gave up, basically, is what happened.
You got to practice. So this is what I think we do.
Yes.
Jacques,
yes.
You and Nick, download Fortnite, and the three of us will play together on a team.
All right. So,
Yes.
Yeah, we should definitely
And
do
we'll
that.
battle and see what happens.
I'm down for that. I am definitely down for that. Let's get a Fortnite game going. And speaking of video games, something very interesting, and Tiffany, I want to ask you to kind of jump in on this one as a plastics engineer, FYI, for those listening. I don't know if you know this, but Tiffany is an innovator in the world of plastic. Xbox One released a grease-proof controller. I want to act like I can explain this, but I can't. And it's a tie-in with PUBG, which is Players Unknown Battlegrounds, which really helped start the whole battle royale thing. But it says that it is grease-proof, and hold on, let me read this. So the controller uses the grease-proof 1.0 on its grip features PUBG messengers. Each controller is numbered individually. There's only 200 in existence, but it doesn't say how the controller is grease-proof. Is there an ability to make a controller grease-proof?
I mean, the only thing I can think is like, in the NFL, the receivers wear those gloves, and the gloves are tacky. They have a tacky surface to them. All I can think is that they made the surface tacky, so that even if you had grease on your hands, it would still stick. But I don't know. This is I can't answer this one.
Yeah. Do you know? It says here the controller is laminated by hand with a urethane.
Okay.
Do you know? Does that mean anything to you? Because it means absolutely nothing to me. They could have said the controller is laminated with butter, and I'd have been like, oh, okay.
Yeah, a urethane is a type of plastic. Like PU is polyurethane. And
Right.
it's typically, that's part that used to be midsoles of shoes were made out of PU. Some of them still are. But urethane is usually a two-part mix, kind of like epoxy, if you will. Epoxy is, I believe, a type of urethane too. So urethane is usually like a more rigid. I definitely would have to look this up more details, but it's interesting that they say it's a laminated urethane, though. I'm not exactly sure what that means. It would mean there's layers. Basically, there's an adhesive under the urethane. So now I'm starting to think like tool handles, right? Like if you look at a pair of channel locks, they have like a rubber kind of urethane-based soft grip on them. Maybe it's something like that. So if you think of like kitchen tools and garage tools, like they have to be preventative, like so they don't slip out of your hand when your hand's greasy. Maybe it's similar to the garage type, tool.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay, that makes sense. For those of you that are interested, there are only 200 of these that are going to be made, so I imagine they're going to be super, super hard to get. But if you do want a pair, imagine just search grease-proof controller anywhere on the internet, and you'll be able to find some information. We found it over on Mashable is where all the information kind of came from. So if you're interested, those are out there. It says the controllers are limited with only 10 will be made available through the Xbox Facebook page for Australia and New Zealand. So if you're down under, that was terrible, or in, I don't even have a New Zealand accent, so I'm going to say New Zealand, which is an even worse accent. You can look and try to win yourself one of those 10 that they're giving away. Anyway, with that being said, I think that's going to wrap up the show today. Good show, guys. We talked about social justice. We talked about Serena and her catsuit. We talked about the new Roshe run. We talked about Battle Royale. We're going to play video games together. And to top it all off, we talked about grease-proof controllers, which is not something that I can say we've ever covered on this show. So we're breaking new ground. We're venturing into places we've never been, and that's why we call it the Outside the Box podcast, because we're looking outside the box, people. We're very literal here on this show. As you know, I am Jacques Slade. You can find me at Cousteau all over the internet. That's Kustoo. That's on Instagram. That's on Twitter. That's on YouTube. That's on Snapchat and on Tinder. Holler at your boy. But this show would not be what it is with just me here. Obviously, I bring the tomfoolery, but there are some really intelligent, bright, sophisticated people on this podcast, and they go by Nick Engvall and Tiffany Beers. Nick, tell them where they can find you.
Nick Engvall, NickEngvall on all platforms. You can also check out my site, sneakerhistory.com, or at sneakerhistory on all platforms as well. But really, I'm just apparently going to learn how to play video games from these two. So I'll be taking lessons directly from Jacques and Tiffany. Tiffany, let them know how they can find you.
Tiffany Beers. You can find me at Tiffany Beers on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. And we definitely have to get headsets so we can talk to each other. That will be.
Yes.
And I'm thinking we need to video this.
Yep.
I don't know if we're ready to stream yet, but Twitch gamers, watch out! Outside the Box podcast is coming. We're coming for you, bruh. With that being said, as always, guys, we appreciate you. Make sure you look us up outside. Goodness gracious, I don't even know how to say it. Outside Pods on Instagram and on Twitter. Leave us comments. Leave us feedback. Leave us pretty pictures. And again, as I said last week, we're into relationship advice. So if you're having trouble with him or her, reach out to us and we will guide you in a direction. I don't know if it'll be the right direction, but we'll definitely send you in a direction. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace.